In a time of war, the human princess refused to bow or run. The city below hummed with life, its people unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon them. In the heart of the capital, the palace towers rose high, silver and white in the moonlight, a symbol of human resilience in a galaxy filled with threats. Within the grand halls of the palace walked Princess Alara, her steps confident, her eyes sharp, and her mind already moving faster than most of the council could keep up with. Alara was not like other princesses. She did not spend her mornings behind silk curtains, nor did she rely solely on guards to keep her safe. From a young age, she had trained with the kingdom's warriors, learning swordsmanship, marksmanship, and tactics. Her father, the king, often worried for her, but he also understood that she carried within her the heart of a leader. Alara knew that leadership was not about titles or riches. It was about action, courage, and making decisions when others could not. On this particular night, Alara stood on the palace balcony, overlooking the city she was sworn to protect. The wind whipped her hair around her face, and she felt the familiar surge of energy that always came when she thought about the responsibilities resting on her shoulders. Scouts had returned earlier with troubling news. A fleet of Zythurian warships, massive and black as void itself, was approaching the human kingdom. The Zythurians were notorious for their ruthless conquests, and many systems in the galaxy had fallen before them. Their leader, Lord Varkin, was said to be merciless, crushing any civilization that dared oppose him. Alara did not flinch at the news. Where others saw fear, she saw opportunity. The human kingdom was small, yes, and technologically outmatched in some ways, but humans had something no alien race could replicate: cunning, determination, and the ability to adapt in ways machines and rigid militaries could not. She knew that if humanity was going to survive, it would be through strategy, bravery, and unity. Her council convened immediately after the scouts returned. The room buzzed with tension. Ministers and generals argued over the best course of action. Some urged surrender, others insisted on evacuation, while a few proposed negotiating with the Zythurians, hoping to buy time. "We cannot fight them head-on," one general said, his voice tight with anxiety. "Their weapons can destroy our walls in seconds. We should retreat and preserve our people." Alara stood, her presence commanding silence. "Retreat, and leave our home to be torn apart. Bow to them and admit we are weak. I refuse," she said firmly. Her voice did not waver. "Humans are not built to run. We are built to fight, to protect, and to endure. We will face them, and we will show them what it means to underestimate humanity." A murmur went through the council. Some were impressed, others skeptical. The king, her father, looked at her with a mix of pride and worry. "Alara, I admire your courage, but this is not a game. Lives are at stake. Are you certain you can lead us through what is coming?" "I am certain," she replied. "If we hide, they will destroy us. If we fight wisely, we can survive. And if we survive, humanity will remain free." That night, the palace became a hive of activity. Engineers and mechanics worked on reinforcing the walls, while soldiers checked weapons and supplies. Alara moved among them, not as a distant leader, but as one of them. She tested plasma rifles, adjusted grav shield generators, and trained alongside young recruits who had never faced battle before. She reminded them that fear was natural, but courage was a choice, and it was a choice they would all have to make soon. By dawn, the first signs of the Zythurian fleet appeared on the horizon. Dark silhouettes stretched across the sky, glinting with the light of distant stars. Alara stood atop the palace walls, watching the ships advance. They were massive, their surfaces black and angular, equipped with weapons that could obliterate entire city blocks in moments. Civilians fled in panic below, and yet Alara's presence on the walls inspired hope. She raised her voice, calling to the people, reminding them that fear would only serve the enemy. "Stand your ground, do not bow, humanity will endure." The Zythurians did not waste time with diplomacy. The first wave of energy beams struck the city, tearing through buildings and sending clouds of dust into the air. Alara had anticipated this. She signaled to the defense squads, and gravity nets and plasma shields deployed instantly. The humans had turned their city into a fortress, using ingenuity and strategy to counteract the alien firepower. Alara moved through the streets, her armor catching glints of the alien energy as she coordinated the defense. She directed sharpshooters to weak points in the alien armor and engineers to set traps that could disable incoming vehicles. Humans fought not just with strength, but with brains. They adapted to the alien attacks, finding loopholes and turning the invaders' own technology against them. During one critical moment, a squad of Zythurian soldiers attempted to sabotage the city's energy core. Alara led a small team directly to intercept them. She fought with precision, her magnetic pulse sword slicing through alien armor with sparks flying in every direction. She moved like a whirlwind, and the Zythurians, despite their superior numbers, struggled to keep up. Her courage was infectious. Soldiers nearby gained confidence from her example, pushing back the invaders with renewed vigor. Hours passed and the city held. The Zythurians, surprised by the human resilience and the leadership of a single princess, were forced to retreat temporarily. But Alara knew this was only the beginning. Lord Varkin would not give up so easily, and the humans had to be ready for a prolonged conflict. That night, as the fires from the battle cast flickering shadows across the palace halls, Alara walked among her people again. She visited wounded soldiers in the medical bays, spoke to families who had lost homes, and reassured the young recruits that the fight was far from over, but humanity could endure. "Fear is natural," she told them softly, "but courage is stronger. Remember that strength is not in the weapons we hold, but in the hearts that wield them. We are humans. We do not bow, we do not flee, and we do not break. Not today, not ever." The words spread through the city like wildfire. By the time dawn arrived, the people of Urindor were no longer just survivors. They were defenders. And at the heart of their determination stood Princess Alara, fearless, unyielding, and ready to face the storm ahead. From her vantage point atop the palace tower, Alara watched the stars once more. The Zythurian fleet would return. She knew that. But she also knew that humanity had something far more dangerous than alien technology: unity, intelligence, and the unshakable will to survive. And Alara, the princess who refused to bow or run, would be their guiding light in the darkness. The dawn came slowly over Urindor, the sky painted with the red and orange glow of a city that had survived its first strike, but now faced the weight of reality. Princess Alara stood on the highest tower, her cloak whipping in the wind, eyes fixed on the horizon where the Zythurian fleet had vanished only to regroup. She knew this was the calm before a storm far greater than the one they had faced yesterday. Her people looked to her not just as a leader but as a symbol of hope, and she could not let them down. Soldiers and engineers hustled through the city, repairing walls, recharging shields, and preparing weapons for the inevitable next wave. Civilians worked alongside the defenders, their fear turned into determination under Alara's watchful guidance. Even the youngest among them helped, carrying supplies, patching barricades, and keeping watch. In every face, Alara saw courage and resilience, the kind that could turn the tide of even the darkest battle. The princess gathered her generals in the command hall, a room lined with holomaps and strategic displays. Every plan, every defense, every possible tactic was laid bare before her. The Zythurians were intelligent and relentless, but Alara had spent her life studying strategies of both human and alien warfare. She knew that brute force alone could not defeat them. Cunning and speed would be their greatest weapons. "Our city walls will hold, but we cannot rely solely on them," she said, pointing to the maps where the enemy fleet had been recorded. "They will strike from the sky, from the shadows, from angles we cannot always predict. We need mobility, traps, and precise strikes. We need to be humans at our sharpest." The generals exchanged cautious glances. One of them, an older man with a scar across his cheek, finally spoke. "Your Highness, the humans are brave, but the Zythurians have weapons that could level entire districts in minutes. How do you propose we fight against that?" Alara's eyes sparkled with determination. "By thinking faster than they do, by turning their strength against them, and by showing them that humans are never predictable." She walked over to the map, tracing points where the Zythurians' previous attacks had been most effective. "Here, here, and here. We will use decoy ships to lure them into traps. Our sharpshooters will target weak points in their armor. Engineers, prepare energy nets and gravity fields to immobilize their assault vehicles. We will not simply react, we will lead the battle." The council murmured in agreement, some reluctantly impressed by her confidence. But Alara did not wait for approval. She moved back into the city streets, rallying the soldiers and civilians alike. She walked alongside young recruits, showing them the new weapons and teaching them how to use traps effectively. She was everywhere at once, and her presence inspired everyone around her. By mid-morning, the Zythurian fleet returned, larger and more organized than before. Ships darkened the sky, their weapons gleaming with deadly light. The people of Urindor braced themselves, standing behind reinforced walls, with soldiers ready to defend every street and square. Princess Alara climbed to the battlements, her pulse steady, her mind calculating every angle. The first wave of fire came quickly. Energy beams tore through the air, striking the city walls and sending clouds of dust and debris flying. Civilians ducked for cover, but soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, activating shields and deploying traps. Alara shouted orders, guiding units to weak points and calling out where the Zythurians' firepower could be neutralized. A squadron of Zythurian strike teams attempted to breach the city through the eastern gates. Alara led a small force herself, moving swiftly across rooftops and streets. Her magnetic pulse sword cut through alien armor, sending sparks into the sky. Her movements were precise, almost fluid, and every strike was calculated to take maximum effect with minimal risk to her own troops. As the battle escalated, Alara realized that sheer skill would not be enough. The Zythurians were numerous, and their strategy was relentless. She needed a plan to shift the momentum. Her eyes scanned the battlefield, noticing patterns in the enemy movement, their reliance on specific formations. A daring idea formed in her mind. She directed a group of engineers to set up a gravity trap in a narrow street that the Zythurians favored for attacks. Then she sent small groups of soldiers to lure the enemy into it. When the Zythurians pursued, thinking they had a chance to break the defenses, the trap activated. Gravity fields warped around them, immobilizing their strike vehicles and leaving soldiers vulnerable. Humans moved in quickly, capturing or neutralizing the aliens with coordinated precision. The first major human victory in the battle sent a wave of morale through the defenders. Civilians who had been terrified now felt hope, cheering from behind the walls as Alara's strategies worked. Her courage on the front lines became a rallying point, a reminder that humanity could resist even the most terrifying foes. Lord Varkin, observing from his flagship in orbit, clenched his fists. He had underestimated the humans, and specifically the boldness of one young princess. He had thought they would crumble under fear, that the humans would hide and bow. But Princess Alara had turned their attack into a demonstration of human ingenuity. His surprise turned quickly to anger, and he ordered a concentrated strike on the palace itself, hoping to eliminate the human leader who had caused so much trouble. Alara anticipated the move. She had prepared a series of countermeasures, using decoy towers and holographic illusions to mislead enemy targeting systems. The main palace, her home, remained largely unharmed, while the Zythurians wasted energy and firepower on phantoms. She then led a counterattack squad to intercept the approaching enemy forces, striking with precision and creativity that left the aliens scrambling. Hours stretched into an exhausting day. The city trembled, buildings smoked, and the ground shook beneath the relentless assault. Yet Alara never wavered. She moved tirelessly from point to point, guiding soldiers, cheering civilians, and even taking the risk to lead small squads directly against the enemy. Her presence became the heartbeat of the city, a symbol that the people of Urindor could not only survive, they could fight back. Amid the chaos, Alara noticed a young recruit, barely 16, frozen with fear as a Zythurian soldier advanced toward him. Without hesitation, she leaped forward, engaging the alien with a swift, calculated strike. The recruit watched in awe as the princess defended him, and for the first time, he understood what bravery truly meant. Inspired, he found courage in himself, joining the fight and helping turn the tide in that small but critical skirmish. By nightfall, the Zythurians were forced to retreat once again, their first large-scale attack thwarted by humans who refused to submit. The city had sustained damage, but it stood. People cheered, but Alara did not allow herself to celebrate too long. She knew this was only the beginning. Lord Varkin would return, stronger and angrier. Humanity's true test was still ahead. That evening, the princess walked among her people, visiting the injured and comforting families who had lost homes. She listened to their fears, their worries, and she reminded them that their courage mattered more than any weapon or shield. "We fought today," she said softly, "and we showed that humans do not bow. Remember this feeling, this strength, for tomorrow the battle continues. We are not weak, we are human, and we will endure." Word of her bravery spread quickly. Soldiers spoke of the princess who fought alongside them, civilians told stories of her fearlessness, and even distant colonies began to take notice. Humans were not just survivors, they were a force, a species that could rise against the odds. And at the center of it all was Alara, a young princess whose courage and determination inspired everyone around her. As she stood atop the palace tower once more, looking at the stars and the distant retreating enemy, Alara knew that the war was far from over. But she also knew this. Humans had something far more powerful than alien technology. They had ingenuity, resilience, and a spirit that could not be broken. And she, Princess Alara, would lead them through the storm, refusing to bow, refusing to flee, and refusing to surrender. The first battle was won, but the war had just begun. The days following the first battle were tense and unrelenting. The city of Urindor, though battered, stood firm under human ingenuity and determination. Princess Alara moved through the streets daily, her presence a constant reminder that courage was stronger than fear. The Zythurians had not returned yet, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. Supplies were running low, and the city's engineers worked tirelessly to repair defenses, patch energy shields, and produce more ammunition from whatever resources they could salvage. Alara walked alongside soldiers, checking on their readiness and encouraging them to remain vigilant. She noticed the strain in their faces, the exhaustion from the previous battles, and the anxiety that sometimes crept into even the bravest hearts. She spoke to them gently but firmly. "We have survived what they thought would break us. We have proven that humans are clever and relentless, but the fight is not over. Remember, it is not fear that defines us. It is what we do in its presence." Despite her words, she could feel the pressure mounting. The Zythurians were patient and intelligent enemies. They would not waste effort on small attacks when they could plan for the complete destruction of the city. Alara convened her generals to prepare for a siege, knowing that the coming days would test every human instinct for survival. "We cannot allow the Zythurians to surround us completely," she said, pointing at the map projected before them. "If they cut off our supply lines, we will run out of food, water, and energy. That will not break our spirit, but it will make survival harder. We need to be proactive, not reactive." One of the younger generals frowned. "But Your Highness, their fleet is massive. Even with traps and defenses, we cannot stop them from bringing reinforcements." Alara's eyes narrowed, her mind moving faster than anyone else in the room. "We do not need to stop them entirely. We need to disrupt them, slow them down, and turn their strength into weakness. I will lead small strike teams to target supply routes and key depots. We will use stealth, speed, and cunning. Humanity has survived worse than alien fleets. We can do this." The council hesitated, knowing the risk of sending a princess into active missions. But they also knew that Alara's leadership inspired people to exceed their limits. If she believed in the plan, they would follow. The first night of the siege was quiet, almost eerily so. Alara led a small squad, moving silently through narrow alleys and rooftops. They were armed with light plasma rifles, magnetic pulse blades, and small devices designed to disable alien technology. Their mission was to intercept a hidden Zythurian supply depot that intelligence reports indicated was critical to the enemy's upcoming assault. The depot was heavily guarded, but Alara had prepared a clever plan. She used decoy signals to draw patrols away while her squad infiltrated the perimeter from an unexpected angle. Alara's presence was calming. Soldiers moved with precision, knowing that if anyone faltered, she would guide them. Inside the depot, the squad found alien technology far more advanced than they had anticipated. Energy cells, weapon modules, and communication devices were stacked in careful order. Alara's eyes scanned the room quickly. "We cannot destroy everything. If we take it all, they will know we were here. We need to disable key systems and leave them uncertain." Using her expertise, she directed the team to sabotage power conduits and communication arrays. Small devices disrupted the flow of energy, causing localized explosions that damaged equipment, but left the depot largely intact as a trap. They set false trails and left holographic signals suggesting a larger force had passed through. Then, just as silently, they retreated into the shadows, unseen by the returning patrols. The next morning, chaos rippled through the Zythurian fleet. The supply depot was no longer reliable, their plans delayed, and their confidence shaken. Even a small strike, executed with precision, had significant effects on the enemy. Alara knew that humans did not need to match the Zythurians in raw power. They needed intelligence, creativity, and timing. Back in the city, Alara moved through the streets again, checking on morale. Civilians had begun to organize themselves into auxiliary teams, assisting with supplies, communication, and defense. Even families contributed, finding ways to support the soldiers and maintain order. Alara's presence, fearless and reassuring, kept hope alive. Days turned into weeks. The Zythurians had settled into a siege, bombarding the outskirts and testing the defenses with constant patrols and occasional strikes. Food and water became scarce, and the energy grid strained under continuous attacks. Even in these conditions, Alara refused to leave the front lines. She was everywhere at once, guiding defenses, training soldiers, visiting hospitals, and planning counterstrikes. One afternoon, scouts reported an incoming fleet carrying additional Zythurian reinforcements. The enemy intended to crush Urindor with a sudden, concentrated assault. Alara called an emergency meeting with the generals and engineers. "We will not wait for them to break us," she said. "We will strike first. If we use speed, precision, and misdirection, we can weaken them before they even reach the city." The plan was risky. Small strike teams would launch from hidden launch pads, targeting supply ships and command vessels, while the city defenses created distractions and false vulnerabilities. It required perfect coordination and flawless execution. Alara led one of the strike teams herself, moving with the soldiers who had come to trust her every decision. The attack was swift and calculated. Alara's team struck the first supply ship, disabling engines and causing chaos among the alien ranks. Using agility and advanced tactics, they moved from ship to ship, setting traps and causing confusion. Zythurian soldiers were caught in gravitational snares and immobilized by pulse nets. The humans struck fast and disappeared just as quickly, leaving the enemy unsure of where the next strike would come. As the battle continued, Alara demonstrated not just bravery but ingenuity. She noticed patterns in the enemy's formation, subtle weaknesses that others might have missed. By directing her team to exploit these gaps, she created opportunities for larger strategic maneuvers. Her decisions saved hundreds of human lives and inflicted significant losses on the enemy. Meanwhile, inside Urindor, the civilian population rallied around the defenses. The city had become a living organism, with every person contributing in some way to survival. Engineers repaired damaged sections, children relayed messages between units, and farmers and laborers provided food and water to soldiers on the front lines. Alara's leadership had transformed fear into coordinated strength, turning what could have been panic into a powerful force of resistance. By the end of the week, the Zythurians were forced to withdraw, their siege weakened and morale shaken. They had underestimated humans' ability to adapt, to strategize, and to fight against overwhelming odds. Alara's leadership had proven decisive. The humans had survived not because of superior technology, but because of courage, unity, and clever tactics. In the quiet moments after the battle, Alara moved through the city once more. She visited the injured, comforted the grieving, and encouraged those who had lost hope. She reminded them that their resilience mattered more than any weapon. "We have survived today," she said, "and we will survive tomorrow. The Zythurians may be powerful, but they cannot break what is human. We think, we adapt, and we endure. We are not alone, we are together, and together nothing can defeat us." Stories of her daring raids spread beyond the city. Nearby human colonies, once hesitant and fearful, began preparing to aid Urindor. Alara's courage had not only inspired her own people, but had begun to change the perception of humans across the galaxy. They were no longer seen as weak or passive. They were clever, resilient, and united. Princess Alara knew the war was far from over. The Zythurians would return, stronger and more determined than before. But she also knew that humans had something the aliens could never fully understand: adaptability, resourcefulness, and an indomitable spirit. She would continue to lead them, refusing to bow or flee, showing that humanity could survive even against seemingly impossible odds. As she stood atop the palace tower that evening, looking over the city, Alara felt a quiet pride. Her people had faced fear and danger and had not broken. They had fought with ingenuity, courage, and heart. And in every heart of Urindor, the spark of hope burned brighter than ever. The siege continued, and the challenges would only grow, but Princess Alara and her people had already proven one undeniable truth. Humanity was not to be underestimated. And as long as she stood with them, they would endure, fight, and rise again, stronger than before. The air over Urindor was thick with tension. Weeks of siege had exhausted the city, but its spirit remained unbroken. Princess Alara moved among the streets and walls, observing repairs, checking supplies, and rallying troops. Every soldier, every civilian knew that the final confrontation with Lord Varkin and his Zythurian fleet was imminent. The enemy had grown frustrated, desperate to crush the humans once and for all, and now their attack would be relentless. Alara's eyes scanned the horizon, where black silhouettes of alien warships stretched across the sky, each one bristling with weapons. Their arrival was imminent. The city's defenses were prepared, yet Alara knew that strength alone would not ensure victory. The humans had survived through intelligence, strategy, and courage. This final battle would demand all three in equal measure. Inside the palace, she met with the generals and engineers for one last strategy session. Holomaps displayed enemy positions, and schematics of traps and decoys flashed across the table. Alara's hand hovered over the displays as she outlined the plan. They will come in waves, striking at multiple points at once. We must be faster, smarter, and unpredictable. The city's defenses will hold the majority of their fleet, but I will lead a strike team to confront their command ship directly. If we disable it, we can disrupt the entire assault. A general looked uneasy. Your Highness, that is extremely dangerous. If you fail— I will not fail, Alara interrupted firmly. If humanity is to survive, we must show the Zythurians that no force can break our spirit. I lead because they must see that we will never bow, never run, never surrender. With the plan set, humans moved with purpose. Engineers fortified energy shields, deployed gravity nets, and prepared the plasma cannons. Civilians assisted by carrying supplies, tending to the wounded, and relaying messages between units. The city had become a living organism, every part working in harmony under Alara's guidance. As the Zythurians began their final assault, the skies lit with the glow of thousands of weapons. Energy beams tore through the outskirts, exploding buildings and throwing debris into the air. Civilians took shelter while soldiers manned the defenses, but Alara did not remain behind. She donned her armor, checked her pulse blade, and prepared to lead the strike team toward the enemy flagship. Her determination radiated through the city, reminding every human that courage was stronger than fear. The first wave of alien ships approached the walls. Humans activated traps, launching decoy vessels, firing gravity nets, and targeting weak points in the enemy formation. Explosions rocked the streets, but the city held. Alara's tactics had prepared them for this moment. Soldiers moved with confidence, inspired by the princess who fought alongside them, showing that humans could face any danger with cleverness and courage. Meanwhile, Alara led her strike team toward the enemy flagship. Using hidden launch pads and stealth technology, they moved across the battlefield undetected. Their mission was clear: disable the command ship and turn the tide of the war. As they approached, they saw the massive vessel bristling with weapons, with Lord Varkin watching from his command deck. His presence exuded power, and yet Alara felt no fear. "Stay focused," she said to her team. "This is not just a battle, it is a statement. Humanity will not bow." The team moved with precision, disabling turrets and avoiding patrols. Alara herself engaged Zythurian guards, her pulse blade slicing through armor with a controlled fury. Her movements were a dance of skill and courage, every action designed to protect her team and ensure success. The aliens had never faced opponents like humans, unpredictable, clever, and relentless. Reaching the control core of the flagship, Alara and her team planted devices designed to disrupt its energy systems. Alarms blared, and Zythurian soldiers poured in to stop them. Alara fought fiercely, moving with a speed and strength that belied her young age. She dodged energy blasts, countered attacks, and inspired her team to press forward despite overwhelming odds. Lord Varkin appeared, towering over her, weapon in hand. "You are foolish to come here, human. You cannot win," he roared. Alara raised her blade, eyes locked on him. "We are not here to win alone. We are here to show that humans cannot be crushed." The battle between Alara and Varkin was intense. He struck with overwhelming power, yet she moved with agility and cunning, exploiting weaknesses in his armor and strategy. Each strike she delivered was precise, each movement calculated to outsmart a foe who relied on brute force and fear. The fight was not just physical. It was a clash of wills, and Alara's determination proved unbreakable. While they fought, her team completed the mission, planting the final devices and triggering a cascade of energy failures across the flagship. Systems malfunctioned, weapons overloaded, and the massive vessel shuddered under the disruption. Zythurian soldiers faltered as chaos spread through the ship. Alara saw the opening and seized it. With a final strike, she disabled the central control panel, sending a shockwave that reverberated through the vessel. The command ship lost stability, its formation broken. From the skies, humans pressed the advantage, targeting the disoriented fleet and forcing the Zythurians into retreat. Back in the city, the defenders cheered as the alien ships began to fall back. Civilians poured into the streets, celebrating the victory but also tending to the wounded and damaged areas. Alara returned to the palace, exhausted but triumphant, her armor scorched and her pulse blade humming faintly. She looked over her people, seeing hope and relief in their faces. The war was not over, but the Zythurians had been decisively defeated in this battle. Lord Varkin, humiliated and weakened, retreated with what remained of his fleet. The humans of Urindor had survived against impossible odds, not because they were the strongest, but because they were clever, united, and fearless. Alara stood on the palace balcony, looking at the horizon where enemy ships disappeared into the distance. She felt pride not in herself but in her people. They had fought, endured, and adapted. They had survived through courage, intelligence, and unity. Humanity had proven that even against the greatest threats, they would not bow or flee. Soldiers and civilians alike gathered to hear her words. "Today, we have faced what others thought would destroy us," she said, her voice clear and strong. "We have fought with every skill, every ounce of courage, and every bit of intelligence we possess, and we have endured. This is a victory not just of strength, but of spirit. Humanity is unyielding. We do not bow, we do not run, we endure. And as long as we stand together, nothing can defeat us." Cheering erupted through the city, a sound that carried across the walls, echoing into the skies where alien scouts had once threatened them. Humans were not just survivors, they were victors. Across the galaxy, whispers of Urindor's defense spread, stories of a young princess who refused to bow or run becoming legend. Colonies far and wide prepared to defend themselves with renewed courage, inspired by the humans' unbreakable spirit. In the days that followed, the city repaired itself, stronger and more unified. Alara walked among her people, ensuring that recovery and preparation continued. Her leadership was not in commanding fear, but in inspiring hope. She reminded everyone that while technology and weapons were important, it was the human heart mind, and will that truly made them formidable. And though the Zythurians would always be a threat, they had learned an important lesson. Humans were not a species to be underestimated. Every attempt to intimidate or crush them had been met with ingenuity, courage, and defiance. The galaxy would remember that lesson, and humanity would continue to thrive, stronger and wiser for the battles they had faced. Princess Alara, standing atop the palace tower, looked at her people one last time that evening. They had endured, survived, and fought with every skill they had. She felt a deep sense of pride and calm, knowing that the humans of Urindor had not just survived, they had won. The stars above shone brighter now, reflecting the indomitable spirit of a species that refused to bow, refused to run, and would never surrender. The war had tested them all, but humanity had emerged victorious, and the story of a princess who led with courage, wisdom, and unyielding determination would be told for generations to come. In a time of war, the human princess refused to bow or run.